Hello world, I am starting a 5-part series to help you keep your sanity and help you survive the quarantine. Jokingly, in the musical deal I did the other day on Facebook Live, I've also posted it here on the YouTube channel. I think I referenced 3 or 4 end of the worlds that I've survived, one being Y2K, another being the Arab Spring. Hurricane Harvey was a big deal here in Houston, and then we're currently in one right now. So this is number 4 for me. And I want to share in the next couple of videos a few things that I've learned. So thing number 1 is the importance of routine. There's been a really great book come out recently. This is by Justin Earley called The Common Rule, Habits of Purpose for an Age of Distraction. And he talks about how practices shape us. So we say we believe one thing, and then our practices, which for people my age and younger, a lot of practices creep into our lives, are really driven by social media, entertainment, work, busyness, etc. We talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. I guess that's happening a lot right now for extroverts. For introverts, you got JOMO, the joy of missing out. But for a lot of people, our age, our life is driven honestly by algorithms. And so we say, well, we believe in Jesus, we believe helping others is important, we believe all these things, but sometimes that's just theoretical. And so he really makes the case in this book that those theories need to be put into practice, and sometimes there's a disparity between theory and practice, and that's based on actually our practices, our rhythms of life. And so right now, everyone's rhythm of life has been thrown up into the air, and it's a great time to remake your own rhythms. I want to read you one quote of his. And so he's talking about if we think that rhythms and things create strain in our life or bondage in our life, and the reality is they create freedom. And he says, actually, by arranging ourselves with so many choices, we get decision fatigued, and we are unable to choose anything well since we're too tired to make any good decisions. We're extremely susceptible to letting other people, from manipulative bosses to invisible smartphone programmers, make our decisions for us. Think about that. We are susceptible to letting manipulative bosses or people in general, to invisible smartphone programmers, the algorithms as it were, determine who we are, what we can do, when we can do it. And so I think as Christians there's a much better way to manage our own routines. He's very helpfully, I'll share the link to this, he's very helpfully put out an article. It's on his website, The Common Rule. If you just get on that and look up quarantine, I'm sure it'll be the top one, is Spiritual Rhythms for Quarantine. And so what I love about his view on rhythms and practices is that it's so practical and easy to replicate. So he has 4 practices. Number 1, read the scriptures. 2, rhythm of prayer. 3, light the fire of hope. And number 4, gather safely. So I'll just summarize a couple of his viewpoints or practices. Under the first one, read the scriptures, is habit number 1. Choose a daily reading plan. There's so many apps right now. Actually, a lot of them are putting stuff for free online right now. So find your favorite one. Chances are, if this is your first time to log in, you can actually get some free bonus stuff. Habit number 2, scripture before phone. I would say there's a lot of things we should put before our phone. The phone has become, and I'm no exception to this, so commonplace in our life. It basically has everything in it. We don't have a GPS unit in our car anymore, and a camera on somewhere in our house, and all these different devices. Now it's just all into one device, which is great and handy, but it also means sometimes we wake up and that's the first thing we pick up. So he says, scripture before phone. And number 3, a daily media limit. In a couple of sessions later, I'm going to talk about, I want to be realistic. I know that entertainment and media is going to be part of the quarantine. And so I want to be realistic in accepting that and acknowledging that, but I also want to give you some advice on how to do that a little bit more intentionally. Number 2, rhythms of prayer. He advises 3 daily times of kneeling prayer, physically getting on your knees, morning, noon, and night, and praying. This is just a chance to create a rhythm to your day that's no longer driven by so many other things. As I've studied cities, I've learned cities around the world, they have rhythms to them, days of the week that are busy and not busy, times of day that are busy and not busy, traffic times, call to prayer times. So when we lived in the Middle East, the call to prayer goes off and that starts the city going, and the call to prayer ends and that shuts the city down. And there's different calls to prayer throughout the day. In ancient medieval European cities, the church bells rang several times a day. And so you go, well, our cities don't have these rhythms. Yes, it's the 5 o'clock whistle. And so do we want to let algorithms and the 5 o'clock whistle drive our day? Obviously, we see the weakness of that, in a time like now where we are no longer have these things that inundate our lives with scheduling commitments and stopped periods and everything else. And so we see the weakness of building our lives around that. And so 3 daily kneeling prayers is what he advises. Number 3 is he wants to practice community safely. So he says, habit 1, read the guidelines and resources from the CDC. He actually includes a link to the CDC. Habit 2, connect digitally. We have such an advantage in this modern era that other people did not have in past pandemics, and that is, I can't make a video like this and reach out to you. People are doing Facebook Live, and Zoom has become a thing, and Slack, and all these different platforms people are engaged in. And habit number 3, tell the truth. This is just a good social habit to begin with. Number 3, light the fire of hope. Some of this is just very basic and symbolic. Habit 1, light a candle. Personally, I'm going to forgo this one because I have lots of small children in my house and our AC isn't actually on 100% right now, and I live in Texas. So, but he's saying this is symbolic of, the fire is representing our hope. This gives us a chance to talk to our neighbors who say, hey, you put a candle in your window every night. What is this about? Habit number 2, he gives you a practice that you can listen to. I believe it's a podcast. And then habit number 3 is read the book, the Common Rules. A little bit of self-promotion there, but all pretty good stuff. And so those are the practices that he lines out that help create a daily rhythm. I think that in times like this, people go through not just a sense of confinement, but actually a sense of identity loss. If your identity has been wrapped up in, I go to school every day, or I go to work every day, or perhaps you're losing your job because you can't do these things and your company can't sustain it. All of this creates a sense of identity crisis. Who am I if I'm not doing these things? And the reality is most of us don't have a very well-defined answer for that. Even at a church level, it's easy to go, well, our church, we meet on Sundays or we meet on Wednesdays or whatever day. And then when we can't meet at those times, we go, who is the church? Who is our church if we can't do those things? And so times like these, they send us scrambling, and this might feel bad. It's also a time for reinvention. Our slates have been cleared. So I hope that you'll take this message to heart. I hope you'll institute some of these practices into your daily life. And I believe this will actually help you navigate that identity crisis that you might be going through.